Good afternoon to you viewers. Welcome to Women Rights at Civic Space TV. Every Saturday at 3 p.m. we bring you amazing stories from, of course, special guests. Yes, and today I have a very special guest. Of course, we are going to learn more from her because, she's going to share more about her work, herself, and of course, her experience. Yes, so get ready to, to take notes because we have the best in studio today. And I know many of you have seen her around because of her good work and efforts that she has put in Uganda and of course beyond Uganda. Yes, many of you know her as the mother of human rights gospel in Uganda. And this is none other than Madam Sekaggya, Margaret. Yes, we are really so honored and blessed to have her in studio today. We are going to know more about herself, how she has been able to do it, and of course, inspire you, the young human rights defender in Uganda. Yes, she is a founding member and the executive director of the Human Rights Centre Uganda. She has been a former UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders and the former chairperson of the Uganda Human Rights Commission. And she was there for 12 years. Yes, that is really a good time. So we are ready to learn from her leadership experience. And yes, a lot more to come. So don't go anywhere. Please stay tuned on the channel and learn more from her. You're welcome, very much welcome, Madam Sekaggya.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes.
We are really, really so happy to have you in studio today. And we join the many Ugandans that look up to her, many Ugandans that she has mentored, many Ugandans that she inspires. Yes. You're welcome again. And please say hello to our viewers.
Hello, listeners. Hello, ladies and gentlemen over there. It's very nice to be on this program.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to really talk to you, to talk to the different people in Uganda. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
All right, you're welcome. And to someone who doesn't know who Margaret Sekaggya is, who is Margaret Sekaggya?
Well, as you said, my name is Margaret Sekaggya. I'm a lawyer by profession.
Okay.
I come from a family of 9 children. The sixth in number, the sixth
Yes.
in the hierarchy. We are 3 girls and 6 boys, but now we are remaining only 5 children out of the 9. So, yes, I had my big sister who was the eldest, and she died, but she's the one who brought me up. And I'm really grateful to her for what I am. And then, we as I said, we are only 3 girls, and I was the second girl, and everyone was so excited because we had the eldest girl, then boys
Only.
and then I came as a 6th, and I was the second girl. And my sister was very excited to have another girl
in the family.
Yes. And then after me was also another girl. So we are 3 girls. Yes, as we grew up as a family, as I said, I'm the 6th among the children. We had our elder sister and elder brothers and sisters looking after us,
You.
really giving us the best. And then when I came, the other boys came. We had 2 more boys and one girl. And then I also enjoyed the love of having young ones. So I also started looking after the young ones. So it was like that, as you know, in Africa. The family is important.
Yes.
It looks after you. So my sisters and brothers looked after us. Then I also looked
after the young ones.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
I was born in a village called Busega, Natete.
Oh.
So we are town people.
Town people indeed.
My father came to Kampala and settled. So where we are, we have actually been there for about 100 years.
Wow, wow.
So my father settled in Busega. We grew up in Busega, and we went to school. Walking from Busega, I went to Mengo Primary School for my primary. And then when I finished, I went to Old Kampala, which was by then a mixed school, Africans and Indians. They had just integrated the schools. You know, they used to have Indians only, whites only,
and Ugandans
only. They had integrated the school, and I went to Old Kampala, which was a mixed school of Africans, Indians, and others. And then after Old Kampala, I went to Makerere College School. And that was a good time because they used to do pre-selection. They choose you before
you join the school.
Before the exams. Assuming, depending on your performance, that you pass well. So I was chosen within the pre-selection system to go to Makerere College School. So you see, I'm really a town.
Yes, a town person.
I'm a town person. And I have to admit that I never grew up much in the village. My grandmother died and we were very young, so our lives have been in Kampala. And whatever we do, we've done it together in Kampala.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so from your education background, do you see yourself becoming a lawyer? When do you think about this?
I think sometimes your career was more determined, one, by what courses you do.
Yes, yes.
But when I was still young, my father used to work in Kampala, as I said. He would come back with newspapers in English. By that time, there was the Uganda Argus. It was in English. And then my father would say, come and sit here and translate this for me.
Okay.
So almost every day my father came with newspapers. I would sit down and translate newspapers. That actually gave me an insight of the politics at a very early age.
Yes.
Maybe I was around P5, P6, but I could, in those days you could learn English very quickly. So I translated the English version into Luganda to my father, and it became a norm.
Okay.
So as I grew up, I understood the politics. I went on understanding what was going on in government. Then, when I went to school after my O-level, I did my A-level, I did those subjects. Those days, they would tell you a lawyer does this, a doctor does this.
Yes.
So I did history, geography, and literature. That put me in the category of people who should do law. So when I finished and went to Makerere College School, I did those subjects. I did it very well, and I went to the university in Makerere and did law. So I think I knew I would become a lawyer, or I'll become someone who understands the politics of the country,
yes.
because of the
The
foundation.
culture that you got.
Yeah, I got in reading newspapers, translating to my family, especially my father, and I started understanding a lot about politics. Yes.
Yes, now right from there, you tell us more about your career. How have you been able to do it? You know,
Yes.
so many are struggling, you know, we don't know where to go, we don't know what to do.
Yes.
We do different courses, but, you know, you
So
find
from
it.
there, I went to Makerere University. I did my law degree, and when I finished, I went to the Law Development Center by then, and I did my diploma in legal practice.
Okay.
So that's how I started my
Your
career.
career.
In the law school, we were about 5 girls out of the 30.
Boys.
Yes.
Wow.
Those were the days.
But these days, I think even women
The
will
girls,
have the girls, yeah, taking
now
up.
you have more girls, or even.
Yes.
So we were just 5 girls
Wow.
doing law. Then I went to Law Development Center. I did my diploma, and immediately we finished, people came from public service to interview us for jobs. So I went to work as a magistrate at Mengo Court. And there I was with a lady called Mrs. Chikonyogo. She later on became the Deputy Chief Justice. But when I started working there, I was working with her, and I started as a magistrate. I didn't stay very long there, and then at the Law Development Center, they had liked me, and the director said, why don't you come and join us and do the lecturing? So after like a year, I left my job as a magistrate and went to work at the Law Development Center as assistant lecturer, teaching diploma students, and those are doing diploma in law students who were doing the law course, and there were also those doing a diploma in law who were just doing the law course.
Okay.
And so I started teaching, and I started teaching lawyers. Of course, you know what they do at Law Development Center. They have moot trials. They teach them a lot of practical courses. They get lawyers from town to come and teach them. Then I got a scholarship given by Ford Foundation to go to Oxford University. And that time, they sent me to do a course in law reporting.
Okay.
So I was doing the law reports.
Okay.
So as I did that course, it was a 6-month course. I came back to Uganda, and I was a lecturer and also editor of the Uganda law reports. And we used to do even the digest, the law digest. So I worked there for some years, and that was during Amin's time. Things were not very good. The situation was getting bad, and we had to leave the country.
Oh.
So I left the country and we went with my family. By then I had 2 children, and we went to Nairobi. So my husband then worked in Nairobi. He was working in one of the financial institutions. and I was looking after the family, and I also had my third baby.
Okay.
Then after a year in Nairobi, I didn't work by that time. I was looking after the family. I applied for a job in Zambia. So they told me one of a friend I met in Oxford was the dean of the School of Law in Zambia. And said, why don't you come and work here? They are ever looking for magistrates, looking for lecturers. I applied and I got a job in Zambia. And I went. The reason why I got a job quickly was because of my course as a law reporter.
Yes.
So in the courts, at the High Court, they wanted an editor who could help them to do their law reports. So I went, and later on the family followed, and I worked in the High Court of Zambia, doing law reports, but also hearing cases as a magistrate. I worked there, and I did for them 23 volumes of the law reports. Yes.
Wow.
For the years I worked there, about 4 years, I worked at the High Court, editing their reports, but also hearing a few cases just to. Then there was an institute called the United Nations Institute for Namibia. It was set up for Namibians because they were fighting for also independence. And they were grooming them to be able to go back to Namibia and work there. So I applied for a job. I got a job as a lecturer at the UN Institute for Namibia, teaching Namibians. And of course, as you know, I taught at the Law Development Centre, so I had knowledge, experience. I had been a magistrate. So me and another gentleman who was an Indian, we established the Department of Law for those students. So I worked for the UN Institute for Namibia for 7 years. And we stayed in Zambia. That time we stayed there. I worked as a lecturer, later on senior lecturer, teaching Namibians about law. And I also helped, I think you might not know that their struggle was done by SWAPO. And SWAPO was fighting for independence for Namibians to go back to Namibia. So I helped the SWAPO Women's Council to teach women also about rights, family rights, and all that. But that was a side job, helping Namibian women to really understand their rights. And that's how I got into actually doing rights.
Human rights.
They were fighting, Namibians were fighting for independence. The women were also fighting to go back to their country. So I worked for them 7 years until 1986. I think the government took over, Museveni took over here, and then I came back to Uganda.
You came back to Uganda?
Yes.
Okay.
Then when I came back, I worked at the Law Development Centre for a while. But they were now working on a new constitution which had been drafted by Odoki. And they set up the Constituent Assembly. I don't know whether you remember that. Were you born?
That is which year?
And which year was that? 1990. Could have been 1991, because the Constitution was done for 3 years.
Yes.
And then later on, In 1995, we had a new constitution.
Okay.
So 1990 to 1995. So we were helping members of the Constituent Assembly to draft the new constitution. So I worked as a team of experts who were advising members of parliament to input into the constitution. So I worked there, and the Law Development Centre gave me study to go, work leave, to go and work with the Constituent Assembly. So we helped all those people, the Matembes, the Winuyanyimas, the different people who were working on the Constitution. We were researching for them, telling them what other countries are putting their Constitution.
Okay.
We were a group of about 12 people helping out. Then they drafted the Constitution, passed the Constitution in 1995. And then when I finished, I didn't go back to the Law Development Centre. I went to work as a commissioner at the Interim Electoral Commission, which was headed by Akabwai.
Okay.
So I was a commissioner then. They asked me, come and help us. You've been drafting the Constitution. We want people to organize the first elections under the Constitution. So I worked there for 1 year. We organized the 1995 elections. And Museveni came out as the winner. And was standing with other people like Semo Gedede, Cecilia Ogwal. And then when they finished the elections, they set up, in that constitution they had put that there will be a Human Rights Commission established to look at issues of human rights. Who would be the best person to do that? You guess.
You, of course.
Yes. So I was asked by the Minister of Justice to go and establish the Uganda Human Rights Commission.
Okay.
New institution. They didn't even have an office. They didn't. So I got to the Solicitor General, who was then by the name of Kabat's Pizza. I said, but where is my office? He said, I'm sorry, you might have to be on the street. Then they gave us an office at Arua Park.
Oh,
you know Arua Park, where the buses.
I know.
There was a building which had been used by Justice Odell, looking at violations of human rights in the country. So we went to Arua Park. We had one big room and like a small office. The roof was leaking.
Oh.
So we were 7 commissioners. By that time, the people you might know was Father Waligo. He's now late, he died. Mr. Sibo, he's now late, he died. Karusoke, Adiromara, Maria Muangadia, who is now the chair of the Uganda Human Rights Commission.
Okay.
Faith Monda. We actually started the commission.
The commission.
7 commissioners.
Okay.
And I ran it for 12
years.
After I had run it for 12 years, of course, you look for other avenues and other opportunities.
Yes. So how was the experience running the commission?
It was
for the 12 years?
A very good experience. All the successes go to that commission because we set it up. We were very innovative. We started training police officers.
Oh, okay.
In human rights. We started training prison officers. We started training the army. We drew up a curricula for the police. They set up, for example, the police set up a committee working on human rights. By that time, they didn't have a department like now. then even the prisons also set up a committee and they started teaching human rights to their officers.
Yes.
So that was a good achievement for us.
Indeed.
Then we started going to the masses,
The people.
teaching them, doing programs on human rights and telling them about human rights and their rights. And that peaked from the public. We also went teaching human rights to various institutions. So that was my 12 years. We started an annual report on human rights. Every year we would bring out a report, take it to Parliament, launch it to the public. That's how it was. Within those 12 years, there had been another election, of course.
Yes.
And we were participating in monitoring. But our advocacy was more on human rights.
Okay. So that's why you pick it from, was becoming the human rights defender.
Yes. Before that, then after my 12 years of service, after we had done a lot at the Uganda Human Rights Commission, with institutions, with the public, with civil society, the issue of human rights peaked. Even the public would say, my rights.
My rights, my rights.
Radio started running programs on rights. I applied to be the UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders. That was not a permanent job, but I could do it. I started doing it as I was still at the Uganda Human Rights Commission. But then I did it for 6 years. And I traveled to 45 countries talking about issues of human rights defenders. My UN job was UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights defenders.
Yes.
And that's what I went advocating for it. I went in all continents, Africa, South America, North America, Europe, Asia, Australia.
Wow.
Advocating for human rights defenders.
Yes. And right from there, comparing today, what is happening today and what happened then, what are some of the challenges you think human rights defenders keep facing? And yes.
Human rights defenders face quite a lot of problems. First, when we introduced it here in the country, they picked up, they knew, okay, I'm human rights defenders. What? When I became UN Special Rapporteur, I came back and started teaching them about the UN Declaration on Human Rights Defenders. So the first thing I told them, use the declaration, use the international mechanisms so that you can be able to put your issues not only locally, but also internationally. So we started that course when I had set up the Human Rights Centre. As I said, when I was UN Special Rapporteur, I also set up the Human Rights Centre. And that's what we were saying, how to use the local, regional, international mechanisms on issues to protect human rights defenders. Of course, human rights defenders faced a lot. First of all, people didn't appreciate the concept of human rights defenders.
Yes.
In other countries where I traveled, of course they would persecute them. They would not understand the work they are doing. Here, it picked slowly, and they started advocating within civil society and all that. It picked up very well. But what human rights defenders face is that sometimes they don't understand the government do not understand that the work they do complement what the government does. But they think they are there to oppose
them, yes.
or working against government. So it's a big challenge. It's not only here, it's all over that human rights defenders face challenges. That's what they call that civic space shrinks when human rights defenders bring up issues. By that time, when I was at the Uganda Human Rights Commission, we even formed a coalition against torture. You know, there was a lot of torture going on and all that. And therefore, we formed a coalition against torture, and it was there advocating for enacting a law on torture. And you know, we succeeded.
You succeeded.
We got a law on torture.
On torture.
Yes, we got a law
Wow.
on torture. And we got, even in the Constitution, because when they were drafting the Constitution, we were advocating for all these things. We got people to advocate that there should be a whole chapter on human rights, and all those issues are there. Human rights. Yes.
And how can the government maybe come in? How can the government come in to support the human rights defenders and their work, what they do?
Well, the government might not have to come and support, but they must ensure that the environment within which human rights defenders are operating is conducive.
Yes.
They are not going to go there, give them money and do that, but they make the environment conducive for them to be able to do their work, for them to advocate for human rights, for them to tell people about human rights issues. They should be able, as human rights defenders, to do that.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. And so from your experience, you've been a leader in leadership positions. From your experience, we have our young people who are watching. You can share maybe some of the work ethics that you think have kept you in big positions, and also a great leader, because you have achieved something when you were serving. What can our young people pick from your experience as a leader?
There are quite a number of things. One, as a young person, you must read and study and be able to speak with authority, that you know the subject, that you know what you are talking about.
Yes.
You understand the issues. Then, becoming a leader, you must be a credible person who can convince others about your issues. So you must actually be knowledgeable, credible, and in many instances, you have to command the respect of the people who you are advocating to. They must be able to really say, yes, I think what you are saying is going to help
us
improve. And also, young people have to have ethics. For example, you asked me to come here. I'd say I must go a bit early.
Yes.
Keep time.
Keep time.
Be reliable. Don't come at 2 when you said you come at 1. Keep your time.
Of course.
Be credible.
Mm.
And do your homework on issues you are going to talk about. How can you convince the government, for instance? Like we convince them. Teach police about human rights, teach prisons, teach the army. We made inroad in those institutions.
Mm.
Yes. Young people have to also understand. As you saw, I was starting as a lecturer. I did law reporting.
Yes.
Sometimes it's better to equip yourself not only with knowledge, but with various attributes which can drive you
Will push you
and
ahead.
push you up.
Mm.
Because if you, for instance, do law, you can decide, do I want to be a lawyer in chambers? Do I want to be a lecturer? Do I want to be a corporate secretary? And you know, do study the situation and know what else can I do to improve on my knowledge.
Yes.
People respect people who have knowledge. People respect people who are credible. People respect you when you speak with authority on the subject you are talking about. So don't just go for the money. Yes, money is good.
Good. Yes.
Everyone would like to earn. But first think of all those things. They push you. Because for me, when I came back from Zambia, I came with knowledge. And then I would say, what can you do? What can you offer us? By then I had done my master's in Zambia. I chose the topic specifically. I did international law, I did constitutional law, I did family law, I did jurisprudence. When I did constitutional law, when they were interviewing us for going to help with members of parliament, I would say, here I am. I have knowledge in constitutional affairs. Here I am, I did international law. You must improve on your well-being all the time to be able to cope with the goings.
Yes.
Because some people study and then they don't think of improving on what they did. Even going to Zambia, they had many magistrates. But they were saying, you did law reporting. We need someone specialized in that. So for me, every position I've gone to, I've done consultancies because I've done environmental law, I did human rights, I did all those. They gave me even when they were starting NEMA, we were doing consultancies on environmental law. So how do you spread your knowledge to be able to be relevant or to be able to tap into other opportunities which come? You were asking, how did you get to all these positions? My education, my work experience, all that tally.
Yes.
You see?
Yes. Wow. So I think young people are noting. And as we come to the end of the conversation, the U.S. mission recognized you with a Lifetime Achievement Award. That was last year. And as I said, as Civic Space TV, we also join the people to celebrate your achievements. Yes. So how do you think your achievements or your work when you're in service has impacted the lives of Ugandans?
First of all, as I've told you, one thing Ugandans now understand human rights.
rights.
Huh? Whether it's someone in the market, you say it's our right. They understand. But they must also understand their obligations. When you are in that market, you understand your human rights, but also understand that your rights stop where someone else's rights start.
I think that is very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's about the public. I think people have understood human rights now, especially in the capitals. Then also, I think what has impacted our societies to be able to permeate into those security agencies to also tell them about human rights.
Yes.
Even if they go wrong, but I know they are, they are doing something.
They know what they're supposed to do.
They know what they are supposed to do. Then we've gone and grown civil society, which can go out there and hold the government accountable.
Yes.
So all those institutions are growing.
Yes.
From our public, the citizen, the security agencies, and the different civil society organizations. I'm so proud of having civil society now very vocal, raising issues, getting, involved in what's happening in the country. Yes.
Wow. Well, it's really quite a very interesting conversation, and there's a lot to learn from we as the young people. There's a lot to learn from people who have been there, people who have done things. You learn something from them, and of course, also, aim at also doing better than what they have done. Yes, so we have come to the end of this conversation, but would you love to share any last remarks with our viewers? Yes.
Maybe what I haven't touched on is, as you do all this work, you also have a family.
Of course.
You also have children.
Yeah, to think of.
Work and home balance is also important.
Very important.
For me now, it's no longer. My children are grown and gone.
And that is quite challenging.
Yes, but the young people, I'm saying work-home balance is sometimes a big challenge for many. But you have to strategize. How do you bring up a family at the same time? Grow your career. You have to balance those things.
Yes.
And be able to cope and be able to contribute to your country, to your family, to the community. Right now I was a patron for our youth in the church for over 10 years.
Okay.
But that's a contribution where you say, well, I've done my part. I've tried to talk to the young people, to groom them, to really get them also understand that you can do all these things, but you have to learn how to balance.
How to balance.
Yes.
Yeah, very important.
You have to learn how to balance.
Yes.
And for you people who are in these careers, when you send out that message, please ensure that there are many things which are important in the country. Many things which are important, issues of peace in the country. And it's the young people now who have to take up the mantle and ensure that we live in a peaceful community.
Yes. Very, very, very key. Because without peace, what will move on if we are not living peacefully? Yes, it has been really an honor having you at Civic Space TV. Thank you so much for giving us this time.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
And so to the viewers out there, you've heard it from Madam Sekaggya. There's a lot to learn from her experience, her work, her leadership. So please pick something from her story and of course do more to what you're supposed to do. Thank you so much for watching. Follow our conversation on all our social media platforms, on Twitter, that is X, Facebook, TikTok and Instagram. See you next week. Bye.